Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Can you just let us know if you can hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Hi, Gloria. Hi. Oh, perfect. Thanks for letting us know. That's Tony, was it?
Yep, that was me. Sorry.
Yeah.
No problems. Great. Thanks for letting us know. It's always that first sound check is really helpful. Yeah, straight into the sun. With our faces in shade. And the others down there, they don't know to come up in the field.
I think they're heading up.
Oh, yeah. The latecomers.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Hey to everyone on Facebook. We're here at the Randwick Sustainability Hub. We're just getting ready. It's good on Facebook?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Great. How many in Zoom?
Well,
I didn't know. No, I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, I told you when I was in the room.
thank you for letting
No, just think.
I didn't hear because I was cleaning up.
Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Kick off?
Yeah, totally.
Let's kick off. Okay. Hey. Well, welcome to everyone. Hello to everyone in Zoom. Hello to all of you here. This is session 6. I've just realised that I should know which session it is by which school week it is, because I usually know which school week it is. Anyway, so week 6, this is growing big in small spaces, all about, if this is your first session here, this is all about growing as much food as possible in tiny little spaces like we have in Sydney. We're looking at propagating, which is about getting as many plants as possible, but in particular, transplanting. We are right here in the permaculture garden section of the Randwick Sustainability Hub. And part of this is all these different veggie beds. And you'll see a bit of a transformation in this 1-hour workshop. So stick around to the very end. We're going to transform this bed here, which is a wicking bed, into a highly productive garden. And as you can see, I can actually span my arms either side. So it's a small space. The Randwick Sustainability Hub is in Gadigal and Bidjigal land. So I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And also acknowledge any Indigenous people in the audience. Here with Steve Batley, who is our permaculture expert and landscape architect, and also the designer of this site. How many years ago?
10, 12?
Yeah. So
quite a few now.
We're super lucky to still have the brains of the person who designed this to keep picking at them. There's still lots to pick at, isn't there?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. I'll hand you over to Steve. And for you on Zoom, we do love to hear from you. The computer's not necessarily monitored, so it's better for you to, at an appropriate time, speak out, and we can hear you on the little speaker thing here. And for all of you who are here face-to-face, can you make sure you speak really loudly and sort of at the microphone so that the guys in Zoom can hear what you can say? Cool?
Yeah, great. So Julian's going to kind of hang around a little bit because he's got some brains to pick as well, which are really useful.
Maybe.
So today, we call it transplanting, but basically what we're going to do is transform this garden bed here into what we've been talking about. So we're going to apply all the knowledge that you guys have learnt over the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and put them into practice in this little garden bed, which is mostly plants that we might call weeds at this point in time. So we'll have a look at that. But what did we do last week? Last week we did some propagation of cuttings. Did anyone have a go at that during the week? Yes. Yes.
And Gloria in Zoom, it was here last week. I can't see the list right now, but I know that there's one other person from Zoom that was here last week. So
Okay.
we can quiz them too.
Yep.
I'm doing well.
Doing well. What did you propagate?
Marigold greens and lavender.
Yeah. Okay. Warrigal greens, lavender.
I ate the other stuff too.
Yeah. So
We actually did, here I'm in Zoom here from California. Hey, we did a full tray of rosemary and some
Yes.
sage. So
and they're going okay.
beautiful. We put them in some perlite, and
Okay.
we did the diagonal cutting and the scarification. So
Yep.
bravo.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So a whole bunch of 100 free rosemary plants coming your way, huh? That's good. All right, so we won't go through the process, but if you're curious about the process of taking cuttings, check out last week's.
Yeah, it's actually online.
It's online?
It's ready to go.
There you go. So we don't need to go through it. And last week we also talked about, we explored a little bit the types of plants that you might choose to grow in a small space. Can anyone remember maybe one or two of the aspects of the plants that you might make them worth considering for a small space?
Or something that you like to eat.
Something you like to eat, very important. Step one, yes.
And that attract pollinators.
Yeah, you want to have, yes, some things in there that will attract pollinators, so that if you're growing fruit, things that fruit, they'll get pollinated and you'll actually get some fruit. What are good things for attracting pollinators generally? Flowers, yes, so flowers. And if you choose edible flowers, you're multifunction, that's what it is. So yes. One of the other things I look for or think about when picking plants is something that just keeps giving. So you plant it once and you pick off some leaves, it keeps growing. You pick off some leaves, it keeps growing. You pick off some leaves, it keeps growing. So it's just, it's a very easy way to get food.
Things
So-
like lettuce.
Yeah, your open-hearted lettuces.
Yeah.
So not your soccer ball type lettuces, but the open, fluffy, not fluffy, but open-hearted ones. I'll show you this garden next to us afterwards, but there's silverbeet, beetroot, so those sorts of things. But let's get into it. So this garden bed, actually all of these garden beds there's a lot going on. It's definitely parsley flowering season. So if you look around, it's like a forest of parsley flowers, which is fine because the bees love them, and we'll have a lifetime supply of parsley without doing anything. But parsley is kind of taking over, and there's only so much parsley you can eat. So we're going to have a bit of a think about these garden beds. But I want to take you through the process from the very beginning and some of the design thinking through to the layout and the planting of these gardens. So what is one of the first things, if you think way back to week 1, and from there, what's one of the first things you might do when you're thinking about creating a small space garden, productive, super productive?
What the conditions are.
Yeah, so what are the conditions? Do you remember what the analysis was called?
Sector analysis.
Yeah, sector analysis. So that's looking at the wind coming in and all that. So right here, those of you guys who are here, how would you describe what you're feeling and seeing in terms of sector analysis and energy into the garden and how it feels?
A lot of sun, I think.
There's a lot of sun. It's really hot. It's hot. I mean, it's a hot day, but it feels hot. What about wind? Where's the wind coming from?
In that way.
Oh, sort of swirls around a little bit, but mostly kind of that. Is it a hot wind, cold wind, cool wind, breeze? Yeah, it's cool. So it's quite nice. So we like that. Yeah, and the other things you look at are the sun patterns. Because we're we're coming into summer. Is there anything around us that's going to shade our garden or have an impact on our space, on our microclimate right here? Not a lot of shade, no, because our sun path, the sun will rise kind of over there and go up here. So this garden bed is pretty much full sun every day during summer, as long as the sun's out. It does get cool breezes, so thank goodness, because otherwise it'd be about 50 degrees standing here right now, I reckon. But that sea breeze is cooling us down. So lots of sun. What about the hot westerly kind of winds that would come from this direction. Is it exposed to those? Is it a little bit? What do you reckon? Yeah, it's a little bit of protection. We got some bananas, and the almond trees will give us a bit of protection from the west. It'll still be really hot. So it's actually it's a great spot if you're a little plant and you like a lot of sun. It's fantastic. If we're here in winter, we've got lots of protection from the south. So those cold southerly winds. So we've designed this garden to create a really nice, what we call a microclimate for our plants. The paving around the bed, how is that going to influence the feel and a lot of heat? You can almost feel it coming off the pavers. So, we do have a lot of hard surface here, paving, and that's because this is a training garden. So people come here and we need to be functional. But maybe if it was at your house, you might think about what you have on the surface of the ground, because that can influence how hot or cold, or it changes the microclimate. So everything you do changes the microclimate. So we've decided this is a great spot. We've got an existing garden bed, which we turned into a thing called a wicking bed a few weeks ago. So a wicking bed is a garden bed that holds water. It's got a water reservoir at the bottom, and the water comes up from the top, like the ones down the bottom. And when we do water in a couple of weeks, we'll be going through that in greater detail. So part of our analysis thinking is, what sort of things do our plants need to grow really well? And, it's the sun, it's the shade, it's the wind, water. So when you're thinking about your design and your space, where are your plants getting water from? It's the basics. How can you keep your plants alive? So have a look around. Has everyone got a tap or a water tank or a...
Walk to the back of the building and carry a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the bathroom. For the kitchen.
Yeah. So one thing, and we'll be covering watering in a few weeks as well. So thinking about watering. Wicking beds are a great way of watering your plants because it just happens automatically, but that's a couple of weeks. So here we've got an irrigation system which runs off a rainwater tank. We've got the wicking bed, so we're pretty sorted for water. So our plants are fine during summer when it's really hot. Okay, so now let's zoom into a bit more detail and look at our garden as it is. So I don't know if you guys, if it's too hot to come out here now, but so what have we got here? So what I would do in this situation is have a look at your plants and think about, we know that we want to put a lot of food plants in here. What do we want to keep and what do we maybe want to get rid of? So we'll just go through it, and I'll grab my secateurs. So what have we got? Is there any parsley?
No, there is not.
No, this is the one garden bed that doesn't have parsley. I know, it's almost a given around here. But...
Is that radish?
So this one here, it's what we call it like a wild brassica, wild rocket sort of thing. So it's a bit of a weed, or it actually grows like a weed.
You can eat it?
I don't know. You probably can, but yeah, I don't know. It's not really.
That's some lettuce.
All right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So this one we should decide: do we want to keep it or do we want to get rid of it? Given that we want more space, it's probably not great. Yeah.
Oh, there's
Okay.
farmer's friend there.
Hey.
There's a farmer's friend there.
Close, but no. So we got lots of this brassica. One thing that it does for us, and it's a bit windy at the moment, but the bees love it. So it's functioning as a pollinator attractor, but it's taking up a lot of room. So maybe we'll get rid of it. So how do we get rid of it? Do we want to pull it out, roots and all?
No.
Yes. No. We have a yes. We have a no. We have a yes.
Maybe a few, yeah.
Maybe a few.
If you cut it backwards, so fast.
Yeah. So we got a couple of options, and it depends on the plant. So one option is we reef it out, roots and all. What are we losing from our soil if we pull it out, roots and all?
Structure.
Microorganisms.
Yeah, and organic matter. So we're taking out that process. The other option is you cut it. You cut your plant right at the base, and I don't know if you can get in here. Oh, it's broke. There you go. So you can just break it off at the base and leave the roots in there. What happens to the roots? Yeah, they'll probably, well, hopefully, they'll die. So it could go either way. It could just grow back, and we're back where we started. But I'm willing to take a punt. And so if it dies, what we've added there is organic matter to our soil. So we can, when you're cutting it, get an old dodgy pair of secateurs, because this will not good for them. Cut them just at or just below ground level. And we've just left some beautiful organic matter in there and the microorganisms that are associated with those roots. And this we'll just put down here for later. Look at that, suddenly we've got space. So there's an opportunity for something. So this, anyone recognize this guy? It looks like eggplant. I think it's in that family. This one's a nightshade. It's actually a weedy version. It gets a berry on it so that if it's green, you don't want to eat it. And check this. Check everything I say. But when the berry goes black, you can eat it. I've actually eaten it before. It's quite sweet. I haven't died yet. That was years ago.
Is it a native?
No, it's I don't know where it's from, but I think it's in the Solanum family, and check that as well. But which is related to tomatoes. And it gets a berry, and the birds eat it, and they poop it everywhere, and it pops up all over the place. So you want to decide whether that's something you want to keep or not. But I'm going to get rid of it because we've got tons of plants. So again, if we cut it like that, we'll see what happens. So we'll keep an eye on that spot. Hopefully it won't reshoot. So it's got no berries on it now, so we can use that in our compost. If it had berries on it, you probably wouldn't. So that's another one there. What about this one? Does anyone know what this one is? Yeah, that's a marigold. What do we want to do with that? Yeah, so we could keep it. What does that help us do?
Pollination.
Yeah, pollination attracts bees. So we'll keep that one.
Is that a marigold? I don't know.
It's the orange flower, which there's none here at the moment.
Well, it's a flower. Orange.
It's an annual. Yeah, generally. So after it flowers, it drops a ton of seed and pops up again next year.
They can, because they can last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can sometimes. Don't know what makes it go for 2 years, but they can sometimes.
Yeah. So a lot of your annuals kind of
And they're edible. The flowers are edible, right?
Yeah. You can eat
I just noticed something that we didn't notice before. There are some pansies sitting around the marigolds too. So I just didn't want them to disappear when.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, in there. There you go.
From Michelle.
So there's one.
Another one. All right. So we'll be a bit quick. So this is the wild brassica again. Question?
So, yeah, there's a question from Michelle.
Yes.
Can you lay down stems of plants you take out to add them to the mulch layer, or will they cause problems?
Great question. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Can we use these as mulch?
Yes. If there's no seed.
Yeah. So definitely yes. That's what happens in nature. You know, no one comes along and takes things away. They just fall down, turn into soil. So we can replicate that, but I would cut off that bit, anything that could potentially have seeds on it, and that's beautiful mulch. So we can chop that up and lay it down on the top, and we'll do that after we plant. So hang on. Because
one of the things that can happen after you've chopped a plant is that the seeds are not mature but almost mature. The plant will still get them to maturity if they can.
Yeah. But by the same token, if we have a bunch of these growing in our garden, is that a problem, or is that a good thing, a bad thing, or just a thing? So everything has its place. What we could do is just put the seeds down. We'll get tons of these, and we can chop them and drop them as mulch. So, it depends what you want to do. I'm not really sure what that is, but to me it looks a bit weedy. So I think I'm going to pull that one out.
Oh, wow.
I know. See, look at that. Look at all that organic matter that I've just totally taken out, so I'll put it back here. Feels guilty. There we go. So I'll get rid of this nightshade so you can see where we're going. We're just making some space. We're making a decision based on what we want to achieve around what we'll keep and what we won't. So there's little brassicas there.
But while leaving the soil completely intact.
We try and leave the soil as intact as we can. Now this one, is that sow thistle or it's something that chickens love to eat. So if you've got chickens, I reckon this will grow back from where I just cut it. It's one of those ones that seems to do that. I'm not game to pull any more out. So we'll chop this guy.
And those ones often have big taproots, right? So
yeah,
they're busy taking minerals from lower down that the other plants can't, returning
That's right,
to the
bring
surface.
it to the top. So if it grows back, that's okay. We'll just chop it and drop it.
Steve, is that a bit of cooch there coming out on this side of the marigold?
It's not cooch, but this is one I will pull out. I think it's paspalum. It's like a weedy, grassy. It gets massive. So we don't, and that will definitely grow back from the base. So that one, I'm okay to pull that one out. It's not much. That's okay, isn't it? Interesting. What have we got? So some things are really hard to identify. That looks a bit like basil. It is. There you go. That's a little Thai basil. Don't know where it came from, but there you go.
Just seed in the soil.
Yeah. It's suddenly. Whew. Now this one's interesting. Does anyone know what this guy is?
Oh, that's fenugreek. Fenugreek or
No. Yeah. What about that?
It's one of those.
Yeah, parsleyne it's called,
Oh.
and it's a salad vegetable. You can eat the leaf. I know you can eat this one. I've eaten them before.
You can.
It's called parsleyne. Purslane. Got parsley on the mind. It's a leafy green, and it's a weed. Well, it's what we call it. What people call a weed. It's an edible weed. Sorry, you're not allowed to. Yeah. No, we can't. We would never do that. So this is purslane. We've got a grass oval down just down there, and last January,
Yeah.
when the drought was on, the whole oval was covered in this. It's gone now because it's kind of, it's one of those pioneer plants. So that's purslane. So you can eat it. Do we keep it? Do we get rid of it? What do you reckon? There is a native version. There's an introduced version. So these are the decisions. I'm quite comfortable to leave it because it is edible and it's photosynthesizing. And can you see how it's growing?
And
So-
also, how do you say it keeps water? Because it's like
It's very,
like a succulent.
succulent.
that's right. Yeah, it's like a succulent.
Yeah.
That's why it can grow out in the middle of a paddock in the middle of summer.
And it's covering the soil, but at the same time we can plant between it.
Is that it? This is all.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Edible weed, then why is the weed?
Well, this is a very good question.
Yeah. So arguably it's not a weed at all.
Yeah.
If you can walk on it.
It's pretty hardy, yeah. So I guess it's a weed because it will, we've had years where it's just been everywhere. But I mean, look at parsley. So, hopefully we're challenging your kind of mindset a little bit here. So I'm happy to leave that.
You do.
I do? Good. That's what I aim for. I'll just shift over here a little bit. So I'll quickly go through the rest. This is more of that thistle-y thing that will grow back. I guarantee it, but that's great chicken food. More of our wild brassica. Now, if we only had one garden bed, I would seriously consider leaving some of this for its bee attracting properties until we get something else that will attract the bees. But because we've got, we don't have an issue attracting bees around here. So it's all about context. This one. So suddenly we're getting tons of space. And what do you notice about the soil as we're going along?
Dark and rich. And
Looks like it's holding a lot of water.
Yeah, it did get watered a lot today. What is not here? If you're thinking about the soil, there's no mulch. And this garden bed, it looked like this until we ripped it all out, put the wicking bed in, and then just put the dirt back in. So it's rich and dark, but yeah, it's
It's really dense too.
yeah, it's very sandy.
Oh.
So this one I'm going to rip
Why
out
is it sandy then?
because when we deconstructed this garden bed, so down lower, it is sandy. We put it all over there and then we put it back. So all the felt base stuff got mixed in with the good stuff. When Eco Living Festival.
So September. And actually, if you're interested in seeing how this exact bed was turned from a regular raised bed into a wicking bed, again, go to the PermaBee playlist on YouTube, and there's Steve turning it from this into a wicking bed, and you'll also find another video on Steve turning another bed into a wicking bed that was made about 10 years ago. So you can see how gardening's affected Steve. But it's
Steve is everywhere.
I used to be upright and healthy.
it's incredibly popular. It's council's #1 video.
Oh,
For years.
wow.
Just stick a wine barrel in a video and you're sorted.
Yeah.
So what else have we got here? Do you recognise this?
That's Silverbeet.
Yeah, so that's Silverbeet. So that will definitely keep. There's another one here. So there's all this. It's almost planted itself before we've even done anything. Yeah. So
What is that one?
that one is a little pansy like this one, I think, self-seeded. So these things will self-seed as well. It's not there. Not special. How's that? Is that better?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why you ripped that out.
Yeah.
Something good to prep earlier.
Sorry, I'll just keep going. Oh, I nearly cut that Silverbeet. So you don't want to do this too fast. So I nearly just chopped that guy. Now this looks like an awful something that would really go weedy. We did have tomatillos, and they looked a bit like that. So I would wait before I pull that out and do a proper ID on it, because it could be a tomatillo, it could be a throwback to a weedy version of it. So
What is a tomatillo?
it's like a
It's like this really small tomato.
Oh,
So it
really?
belongs to the tomato.
yeah.
Okay. So it looks like a tomato.
It's like a
It's really soft.
yes. It's like a little tomato, and apparently they use it in salsa. It's Mexican kind of, yeah. So really, it was a really fun thing to grow, and that could be a baby new one. So that can go. All right. So that's. Oh look, there's a parsley.
Just for you guys on Zoom, if you just remember, we started with the garden looking like that. Now we've selectively pulled out, and there's a lot of plants in there still. But we're about to pack a whole lot more in, right?
Yeah. We'll try to. So there's another purslane.
Parsley.
Not parsley. Now, there's a whole bunch of something here. They look like some sort of brassica, so that could be more of the wild one. Or it could be, who knows what it is. Someone might have planted something, but I think we'll leave that. So what we've done, apart from make some space and keep the things that we would like to eat and that we decided are useful for us, is we have also interrupted the process of plants photosynthesizing and pumping energy into the soil. Remember, that's part of the key about building healthy soil, and those relationships between plants and soil and organisms and all that. So we've actually, by pulling all this photosynthetic material out, we've set this garden back. So we want to get some plants in there as quickly as we can to start that process going again and get it looking like this. So let me have a look over here.
No, that's for you.
Oh, maybe, yes.
Okay.
I thought that'd be there.
Oh, cool.
Fortunately, I was supposed to bring them last week, so they tested it.
They've gone a little bit long and leggy. That's okay. So we've got some beans to put in. So I'll show you. So we got parsley. Thank you, basil. Basil. So sweet basil. I just love basil in summer. It'll grow in a pot. You just keep cutting it, keep eating it, keep cutting it, keep eating it. Really easy to grow, particularly in a hot, dry spot. Here's some perennial basil, some Thai basil. Oops, speaking of which, there's one under there. So we don't need that because we've got this little guy, which I think is still all right. So when we talked about guilds a couple of weeks ago, did we talk about how you can choose the categories? Did we talk about the different, so there's different functions of different plants? So another way of looking at guilds or diversity is to look at the different categories. So we've got things like eggplants. Which bit do you get out of those? That made no sense. It's a vegetable, but which part do you eat? The fruit. So summer in Sydney, fruiting vegetables is one, or fruiting plants is one kind of category that you might use. So we've got eggplant, another one that everyone loves, tomatoes. All right, so they're fruiting. These are the Tommy toe ones, the little round ones. When we talk about pest management in the last week, I'll go into more detail about why I would choose these ones as opposed to the big juicy delicious ones that everyone loves.
But you haven't grown these ones here.
Yeah, we've grown these, the little cherries here.
But I mean, those are not grown here.
What do you mean? Which ones?
Did you grow them from seed here?
Look, I just bought these for expedience because we are getting a propagating area here very soon, so we'll be able to grow our own from seed. It's just but for this workshop, it's just easier to go to. Yeah. So the other category, or one other category, leafy greens. So anything that's leafy and green. So we've already got, these are Silverbeet. We've already got some, so we don't need these ones. This is great. Chives. So the category, herbs, aromatic things. How do they help? Yeah, the smell. So basil, chives, thyme, lemon thyme. I love lemon thyme. Lemon thyme, here's a tip. Lemon thyme, mushrooms, and butter. Do yourself a favour, have a go at it. It's great. The other thing, so we've got leafy greens, we've got herbs, we've got flowers. So we've already got a couple of flowers. Yeah, root crops is another one, which I don't know if we have any root crops, but things like beetroot are really good for a small space. More flowers, these are petunias. Okay. Some flowers are better at attracting beneficials than others, but petunias are lovely. Another one you might want to throw into the mix is legumes, so beans and peas, and they help put good stuff into the soil as well. So all of these plants put good stuff into the soil, but we know that legumes put nitrogen into the soil. Yeah. So
but they like sandy soil, the legumes.
Sandy?
Yeah.
I don't know, probably. I think they would because they're one of the pioneer ones.
Yeah.
What about chickpeas?
Yeah, I don't know. Has anyone grown chickpeas?
No, it's so big.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Be cool. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. Grow your own hummus.
That's right.
So the question is, how do we lay these out to get as much food out of it as possible? Okay. Good. So what things are we thinking about when we're trying to, trying to get as much food out of this as possible in terms of laying out the plants?
You think of the layers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so layering, so using the height and how these plants actually grow physically. In permaculture, you might call it stacking. So stacking rather than just thinking about horizontal kind of growing. So what have we got here? How do these climbing beans grow? Straight up. Yeah, they'll climb. They need something to climb. So, you could, maybe we could grow them up our little mystery plant here. I don't know. What else here will climb, kind of grow up like that? Yeah. What was?
Tomatoes? I used to do some of your classes. I always need to come.
Yeah, hi. How you going? Sorry, was that a question on Zoom?
No, I was saying tomatoes would climb.
Yes. Yeah. So particularly there are different types of tomatoes. Some are more climby and they'll just continue growing, and some of them get to a point and they just form more like a shrub. The little cherries are the climbing ones. So, give me 1 second and I'll go over here.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
So this is from my place. We've got bamboo, clumping bamboo, and it produces these beautiful things that you can grow stuff on. So where do we want to put our beans and our tomatoes? Which part of the garden?
Maybe at the back from the sun.
So on this side maybe? Yep, so we could do like a trellis straight along. We could do, well, these used to be kind of, we could do a teepee. So I guess this is another way of thinking about how you lay the plants out. So in summer, it's really hot out here. So what we can do, so what I'll show you one way we could do it. So let's say we choose this section here, because in summer, the sun in Sydney, in summer that's hot, right? And a lot of our veggies actually don't like a full sun. Some of them love it, but some of them actually benefit from having some shade. So we can create try not to stab any of our useful plants here. Things like that. You can create like a little teepee. And then we plant our climbing beans and our tomatoes around the outside, and I'll climb up here. And what have we then created in the middle? We've created a shady spot. Does anyone know one of our plants that would love a little bit of shade in the middle of summer? What's that? Oh, yeah, that probably could. Yeah, basil's pretty tough. Parsley will grow anywhere.
The lettuce?
Yeah, some of your lettuces. So some of your lettuces in summer they don't taste so good because they get hot and dry. But you could tuck some lettuces in the middle here, and they'll love it. So that's how we can kind of manipulate the microclimate with this sort of idea.
What about like coriander?
Yeah, coriander would love it in there. Yeah. Okay, so and at the same time, you know, our beans are pumping nitrogen into the ground and our tomatoes are creating shade. There's another plant we could add to that mix as well. What have we got? Anyone recognise those? Cucumbers. So they're a climber as well. So I would personally, I would put some beans, some tomatoes, and some cucumbers climbing in together, and they'll just climb up here and create a beautiful, diverse little ecosystem. So we've got some eggplants. They're quite like a shrub. So we wouldn't want too many in here because they'll take up a lot of space. But where could we put the eggplants, do you think? Maybe at the end. Yeah, maybe at this end or that end. So then, and what's the thinking behind that, Andrew?
I guess it's got like a limit, or it won't crowd out the bed.
Yeah. Yep. You can let it grow out into this space as long as we can still walk past it. It's a really good strategy. So we're not limited to this, are we? We can grow things out here. You could do, I found this little baby. It's called a Perpetual Spinach.
Oh, yeah.
You've grown these ones? Or?
Oh, yes,
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so they'll grow anywhere. And I'm guessing by the name that they just keep going and growing. And one of those pick it and it'll keep growing kind of things. So that, I don't know exactly how it grows, but if we read the label.
Well, my one sort of, pick and it grows tall, but also grows side plants.
Yeah. Okay. So this is another one we could kind of put near the edge, yeah? And we could almost, I reckon it might spill over there.
Can you have full sun or?
So what do you?
Can you put the cucumber, tomato, beans?
how close together.
Yeah.
Well, how do you? Yeah, good question. So how do you know how to space your plant? How close can you put things
I think
together?
as they climb up, you can put them really close.
Yeah. So what are the limiting factors, I guess, around? So definitely, you know, they'll all just kind of climb into each other, which is fine.
It's just hard to find them if it's too dense.
Yeah, it can be hard to find them. And if you are a commercial grower, maybe that would drive you crazy. But maybe if you're a backyard, you can spend a bit of time sort of hunting around for your cucumbers. But yeah, it's something to think about.
And you've got huge depth.
Yeah, we've got plenty of depth of soil. So I think the other thing to think about is the theory is that you need space for the plant's roots to grow and enough nutrients there to feed all the plants. So if they're too close together, they can get a bit stressed out. I don't know about that. I'm not 100% convinced that's a thing. Probably is if you're not focusing on your soil biology. But we're focusing on having really great soil. So I would.
Yeah, because they don't look stressed out.
Yeah, great observation. So this is part of permaculture, is observing. If you look at these, they're not exactly planted as per the spacings in the on the label. In fact, they're on top of each other, but like Juliet noticed, they're all looking really, really healthy. So always question everything. It's part of the fun, so test the rules. So I would put them, I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe get 11 plants around there. And maybe you could alternate, have a tomato, a cucumber, a bean, tomato, cucumber, bean, or you could have, whatever. As long as it's diverse and they're all kind of working together. So how are we going for time? 10 past. So let's lay it out. So let's go through this. So we've got flowering. There's a whole bunch of flowers in here. So I think we got flowers covered, and a lot of these flowers are edible. We got a fruiting plant here in our eggplant, and we've decided that can take up this space. So does that work for everyone? Yep. Leafy green here-ish, spilling over there. That was just put there. That's a thyme. That will grow into kind of a bit of a clump and kind of spread out. Does that work?
Yes.
I reckon that's probably not a bad spot, because again, it'll spill over if we're using that space. We've got our tomatoes, our beans, and our cucumbers growing up there. What about our basil? What are we going to do with that? Do we want it?
Maybe over the send.
Over here somewhere?
Some aromatic stuff.
Yeah. Bit of a spot. Yeah. So close to the tomatoes. Why is that?
It's a guild.
Eh?
It's a kind of guild, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So tomatoes and basil are the classic combo. It's like the why does that work? Hey? It tastes good, yeah. So why not? I like it. It's as good a reason as any. And I think the idea is that the smell of the basil helps with pest management for your tomatoes. So there's two good reasons. The first one, I think it's awesome because they taste good together. So we'll put some basil there and some tomatoes there. We've got leafy greens. We've got a ground cover here in the purslane that we'll just let go. I'm not sure what that is. We've got another leafy green flower. Pretty good representation of different groups. We don't have any root crops, but we don't have any root crops.
Radishes.
Yeah, okay, radishes.
Does that count?
Definitely, radishes count. And radishes are a good segue. Sorry.
They grow really quick.
They grow really quick, really fast. So another method of stacking in permaculture is stacking in space, but you can also stack in time. And radish is a really good example of that. So, we may not be harvesting much of our fruit for a while. We'll probably be harvesting our leafy greens almost straight away. But things like radishes, you can almost go from like a seed to eating it Yeah, but you know, it's fast. Like, yeah, maybe. So, yeah, they're great to grow, or
Yeah, to grow, because then it's like it's quick.
yeah. Yeah. So you know, we'll space out these plants, but there will be space in between because we need some space to let them grow, and you can put heaps of radishes in there in the spaces, and you harvest them before the other plants kind of fill up that space. Stacking in time. All right, I'll go through.
Can I just ask, if you took something out, you had a big hole,
Yes.
you just put your compost?
Yep. Yeah, you can fill it up with some compost. So let's get it into planting. So there's a few gaps, but we can start and then we'll fill in the gaps after. I just want to show what I would do now, or what I recommend for this soil. So the soil, it's dark, but it's very sandy. And there's zero mulch, so we need to fix that. So we've got some this stuff. This is it's alive. It's got this is out of our worm farm down there. So worm castings hey. Hopefully there's worms in there. There should be. Yeah, or at least worm eggs. So we could put a layer of worm castings over the whole garden, over all the soil surface, and then kind of plant out, which I guess we'll do that. So just want to be a little bit careful. So I'll demonstrate on a tomato. So I'll put a tomato in here. So that's pretty much sand. So we can do better than that. But that's a good start. So I'm going to get, excuse me, my gloves on, get some of our worm castings here. And hopefully you can see all of the little critters, and there's heaps of critters in there. Hopefully there should be some fungus. There's lots of bacteria. So we're seeding our soil with all that life. And then there's 2, 4, 6, 8 tomato plants in here. This is called a punnet. So we need to separate them out. So you just put your fingers over, turn it upside down. It's quite a nice looking root system there. Then we turn it back up. Gently divide them up and divide them again. We've got 2 little tomatoes. Dig down. You just dig a hole the size of that root ball. Pop your tomato in and just gently push the soil back around like that. Now the next bit is really important when you're planting seedlings. So most plants, you don't do that. So what did I just do?
Push the soil right up against the stem.
Yeah, so if you have soil around the stem of most plants, what's going to happen?
Rot.
Yeah, they rot. So the stems are generally meant to be out of the ground. There are exceptions. Tomatoes are one. So, but just forget that. The rule is don't put soil around the stem. Tomatoes will actually shoot new roots out of their stem if they go under the ground. But so we just do that. Is that going to be okay? Yeah, so we need some mulch because we know that our worm castings are full of life, bacteria, fungi. If we leave them on the surface, what can happen? Yeah, it'll just die. All the microorganisms will die. The nutrients will sort of blow away. So we need to cover them with some mulch. We've got sugarcane mulch here, which is really, really good. But because we're just for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to use some of this stuff. So this is our nightshade stuff, yeah, or chicken stuff. So we're going to actually turn this into mulch. See how they go. Some of this brassica.
like tomato leaves have gone yellow.
Mm.
Can you put those around?
Look, that is probably some sort of a disease. So you may choose to not put those ones on, or you may choose to put it on and just realize that that disease is just part of the ecosystem. I don't know. It depends. I'm going to get slaughtered by horticulturists right now. But there are more and more and more examples around the world of people who are practicing this kind of ecosystem gardening with lots of diversity and focusing on soil organisms, and they're finding that over time pests and diseases become a non-issue. So there's something going on that we don't quite understand yet, but I'm happy to try. So that's some nice mulch there for that little tomato. What else do we need to do?
Water.
Yeah, water, particularly on a hot day like today. Hose is up there, but
Water and some sun.
Yeah, so if it's really hot like this, you want to try, when you water, try and avoid getting water on the leaves, because it can burn them if it's really hot. Like, it's not, it'd be an extra 10 degrees to what it is now. But yeah, you want to water the roots. So if you can water around the plant, get that soil around the roots really wet, then yeah, then it'll get bedded in really nicely. To plant a seed, now again, I'm probably going to get crucified, but this is how I plant seeds. So there's some seeds. Now, bean seeds are very forgiving, so this is how you do it. Just put them, whoops, probably don't want them right next to the stake. Just push them in. Now, I would generally plant two next to each other. Why? Just in case. You normally wouldn't mulch over the top of your seeds. You could put a little bit of mulch to keep the soil moist and keep it healthy. But that's planting seeds, and that's planting a seedling. What's that, sorry?
What happens if you put too much?
For beans, probably not a problem, but some of your smaller seeds, like carrots, and if the seed is quite small, it can make it too hard for it to, it just isn't so great for germination. Although, we should test that, because I've never tested it.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. So yeah, let's but I imagine you wouldn't put 5 centimeters of mulch over a little seed because it probably wouldn't get through. A little bit of mulch, it's probably okay. And then you just keep planting out, keep adding, you know, put this around. So this is another way we could use our worm castings, just a little sprinkling with plenty of mulch over the top straight away. Give it a drink. There you go. So that's kind of the process. I think we're almost out of time for the Zoomers. Did you guys have any questions about any of that? It was online.
No, that's
the process.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Just pausing to see. Any questions?
No.
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 Sometimes if I wait long enough, someone asks a question.
Looks like Francis might be gearing up for a question.
No, I just said it's all good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. How many are there?
Yeah, 10.
We've got about 6 minutes. Let's do it. So Zoomers, you're not off the hook yet, because it's really helpful for us and for you guys. If you can stay online, and we'll go around one at a time, and we do this with face-to-face as well. If you can just share one thing that you remember from today. And the idea with this is that everyone's sitting there thinking about stuff, and you might say something that someone else goes, oh yeah, that's right, and it helps everyone to remember better. So it's kind of helping each other just by sharing one thing that you remember. So have we got a list? I think Julian's just run off to get the list, but
list is here, but
oh, okay.
I think I'm just gonna.
So Natalia's going to call out your name. Yep.
Okay. So Gary, following by Francis.
So Gary.
Yeah, I really like the usage of the bamboo for the climbers.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm just wondering where I can get some.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess ask around. As you're driving around, if you see someone with bamboo, they're probably, I reckon, more than happy to share. But yeah, I wouldn't buy it because you should be able to get it for free from somewhere.
Hey, Gary. Gary, this is Gloria. What we do in our community garden is we take our stems, big stalks from our sunflowers, and we use those after we dry them well. So that might be helpful also. Give that a go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Francis, following by Tony.
Okay, I like the guilds. Do you see the guilds? The guilds.
Well, the guilds? Yes, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Tony, is it next?
Tony, following by Tirani.
Yeah, I think when you said about removing plants and leaving the base in, I think that was really handy to know. Now, you were saying that you use an old pair of secateurs for that because they would blunt the blades quickly. Is that the reason?
Yeah, it's not good for your secateurs really to be sort of chomping through dirt. But
yeah.
I guess you could do it and then resharpen them afterwards. But yeah, I think that's the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was really handy.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Tirani, followed by Catherine.
Okay, so Steve, if what you've left behind when you've chopped it off starts to grow and you don't want that, does it get in the way of what you've planted?
Well, it can do, but what you can do is just keep chopping it. So just keep these old secateurs at hand, and whenever you're out in the garden, just keep an eye on what's growing and what's not. And, you know, eventually most plants will stop growing after you chop them back enough times.
Right.
If you really get sick of it, then you can pull the roots out. But yeah, it's actually beneficial for the ecosystem if those plants are growing and you're chopping, it's pumping nutrients into the soil.
Okay, thanks. I thought the creation of the shade was really cool with the bamboo.
What we need is like a really big one right now. Yeah. Thank you. See you next week.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Okay.
Catherine, following by Gloria. Catherine? Gloria, would you like to speak now?
Sure. Thank you for asking. I actually liked when you started off by doing the recap and summary of previous sessions that you had to bring some of the other people in for maybe first timers, or maybe they can chime in with that information as it's being put out again. That's really helpful. Repetition is important, no matter whether you're somebody that's like me, that's been gardening for a long time, or you're just creating a new hobby or interest. So summarizing was a great idea, and I thank you for doing that. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
After Gloria, we'll have Julian, following by Kim.
Julian?
Julian? No?
Not me.
Okay. No. Kim, would you like to say something now?
My thing I liked was that the tomato and the basil were helping each other with the taste and stuff.
Yeah. Nice.
Thanks, Kim. Michelle, following by Sebastian.
It sounds like it.
Michelle?
Michelle?
Hi everyone. Look, I was happy for the shading of my newly planted lettuces that I may be slightly shifting right now so that they stay nice and tasty. That'll be a little job for this afternoon.
Yeah, cool. It'll be worth it.
And Sebastian, please.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I like the idea of how you prepared the bed and giving it a try about just chopping rather than just putting everything. So I'll give that a go next time I prepare a little area.
Great. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming again. And actually got my notes.
Yeah, wicking beds. We're actually specifically doing wicking beds next week.
There you go.
So we'll be delving down to what's underneath. So you don't need to watch the videos because you'll be doing it live. So yeah, make sure you register this week to make it that much easier. I put in the chat link, the link to the feedback form. Even if you've done the previous weeks, it's always handy to know what this particular week's feedback was. We take it into account and tweak things for next year, the same course next year. And great, we look forward to seeing you next week.
So it'll be all about water and wicking beds and how you can, because in a small space, particularly if you're growing in pots, if you can set up a system to water, you're miles ahead.
You're home and hosed.
Yeah, boom, thank you. On that note,
see you everyone.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Cheers, thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay, no